welcome back from that, and we're moving on now for another discussion. Our guest today is an education consultant, and that's one of the reasons why, like Ifunanya was saying in a very, very contemporary manner, Japa syndrome. Is Japa, Japa. One of the justification for this Japa syndrome or having to leave the shores of the country is for education tourism, and our guest today will be telling us what challenges these people face and the prospect for Nigeria. What can Nigeria enjoy as benefit for having our people leave the country? That's where we'll be going, and our guest is Hauwa Bashir. Like I said earlier, she's an education consultant. So good to have you in the studio.
Nice to have you too. Good morning.
You're welcome to Asa Morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good. So we're talking about, challenges and prospects of studying abroad. And then the obvious prospects will be for better education. That's
Absolutely.
why most people want to travel. That's a clear-cut prospect, especially when you look at what our educational system is like currently. With ASU strike, not striking, people don't have a definite idea of when they're going to close. But we both know that that's very expensive. Education abroad for most people, especially when you're considering the exchange rate, whether you're paying in pounds, you're paying in euros, or you're paying in dollar, it's significantly high. So how can Nigerians maneuver or walk around this? Because I feel, first of all, the first challenge should be financial challenge, right? So but let's hear your thoughts on it. You're the consultant.
I would say maybe like 3-4 years back, financial challenge would be a very big problem. But recently, with the recent increase in inflation and everything, it's everywhere, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So I believe it depends on the country you're going to. Some might still not be affordable for Nigerians, and while some are still very affordable, comparing the kind of standard of living we have currently now in Nigeria and, of course, in Cyprus, for example. So I believe it's slightly affordable.
So you're looking at Cyprus, but let's talk about maybe UK, United Nations, or the UK or the US, which is where most people, go to school. If someone wants to go, you're looking at least maybe for a semester, maybe $10,000 for starters. And that's $10,000 in Nigeria is almost 8-point-something million. Yeah. So I'm wondering, if someone has 8-point-something million, why wouldn't they school in Nigeria?
Exactly.
Especially in the private university.
That's very true. But again, like in the private university, if you compare the prices to other countries, of course, not the UK. They're almost similar. And personally, I advise a Nigerian, if you want to leave Nigeria, you should be fully prepared financially.
How?
And even
what do you need?
The finances,
yes.
For example. You should know exactly what is it out there for you to want to go outside to study. But if you're not ready, it's advisable for you to study back in Nigeria, either the private university, like you've mentioned, or maybe a government university, whereby probably if it's your first degree, you can do it here, and then maybe after that, gather up something for you to leave Nigeria. But it's not advisable for you to just decide on one sitting that you'd want to leave to study somewhere else.
How much should one be looking at, let's say, Cyprus? I have 2 kids and I'm thinking of shipping them somewhere. So maybe Cyprus might be a good...
We're not using this
well, we're talking of prospects because you're saying Cyprus, because I still think it's very expensive. I don't understand for the life of me. I understand that people japa, because they're looking for a greener pasture. But I say to someone, if you have 10 million naira, you're good. If you have 8 million, you're good. So that's why I put Cyprus to say, okay, then how cheap could that be? Because if I have 10 million naira, I could start a business. There's so many things I could do, not necessarily education, because people go for that education to get a better job where they are. Not necessarily because, they feel it's an easier way. So how much should a Nigerian be having to go to any country outside, not African countries, any Japa-ish country? People don't Japa to Ghana now, do they?
They do.
They Japa to Ghana?
Sudan, Kenya, of course. They do.
Oh, wow. Interesting. But how much should someone have if they want to make, projects like this?
For students going for undergraduate, let me use an undergraduate, for example. One, if I would advise someone, if you want to travel outside Nigeria, you can look for other prospects because of how the expenses is right now, like the scholarship opportunity, for instance, which is very, very open for international students. Like in Cyprus, for example, you're automatically given a 50% scholarship. Having that, it's around, say, 1.4, which is something you can, at private university.
For a 2-year project?
For a session.
For a session?
For a session, yes.
Okay.
So, and for an undergraduate student, for example, maybe after the first 2 semesters and you make a very good CGPA, there are universities who offer you a full automatic tuition scholarship, which is good. So if a student is bright, for instance, and he wants to study abroad, it's advisable for you to look for prospects like scholarship opportunities, and then all you have to think about is the accommodation, which again, it's very affordable, like you would study back here in a private university.
Okay,
wow,
that's interesting.
So for young people, because a lot of them have made several mistakes just to leave the country.
That's
for young people who are listening to us right now and wondering the better sites, I can tell you from the top of my head how many unsolicited emails I've gotten. Oh, John, come join this. And I know that a lot of them are fake.
Scammers,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot have actually fallen into this and spent a lot of money or been defrauded. So for people listening to you, what is the proper channel to get this education, especially?
Unfortunately, our generation have access to technology, but I don't know, maybe it's a laziness that it's making us not to be able to exploit it properly. Now, if you're traveling to a foreign country, for example, the first thing I would do is research about the university.
Right.
It has a website. You go there, you get every information. In fact, there's some universities that give you guidelines on how to apply step by step.
Yes.
But we don't have that patience to do it. That's why, unfortunately, some fall into the hand of those who give them the fake information.
Right.
And then they don't have the accurate information. They just travel. All they want is to just leave and all that. So they fall into a situation whereby they are unprepared, for example.
Right. So it's the website, basically.
It's seeking information, the proper means of seeking information.
Go to the school directly and then get what
you don't even have
you
to
want
go there. You could maybe, if you search in the university website, for instance, I'll use my university, for example. Every region, the East and West Africa, have a specific email address whereby the person in charge is someone you can easily relate with. You would not have a language a challenge. Or if it's an Asian country, the person you're relating with is also someone, and there are also like some websites where you have a chat box. Those are professionals that give you the accurate information.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we don't have the patience to do that, so we just get it from anywhere we find it. And
we're talking about school, but Japa syndrome is really worrisome because you find out quite a lot of young Nigerians. We used to be young Nigerians before. Even if Naya is trying to Japa, but I'm still trying to make my mind up on what I want to do. Because if you look at the country, it's really, people are looking for greener pastures. And Nigerians naturally are migrants. But let's shortly, we have a few more minutes, address people that go through illegal, will I call it illegal borders? I don't even know what to call it. There are people that smuggle themselves out. So we've had this Libyan stories and they're migrating. People are going through that channel because it's cheaper. How can we ensure that we don't lose a lot of young Nigerians in their quest to find better education? Because I know that someone will say, whatever is happening, let me get there. We'll be crossing the bridge as we get there. But we've lost people. We've seen, and then when you see sometimes the videos of how they maltreat some Nigerians in these countries because they know they don't come maybe with the right documents, what would be your message to people like those?
First, it's on both sides.
Okay.
One, there is what we should initiate, which is an awareness program. Okay. We recently started something similar, whereby you educate Africans, not just Nigerians, to tell them that if there are better opportunities in your country, it is advisable for you to stay there until you're fully ready to move. Because you cannot just leave. It's going to be like not okay for the university, for example, and wherever you're going to for the institution over there, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to address matters like this. Because when you've already left, there is no means of other options of you going back, for example. So there's an awareness program that needs to be initiated and to be embraced. You understand? Especially for young Nigerians. And sorry, the first question again?
Now you've thrown me off.
You're talking about the proper channels when they are traveling. Sometimes it is like we hear of people dying in Mediterranean Sea just to move, and their goal is, I don't care how I get there, as long as I get there.
But I think you've actually said it, follow the right channels, know what to do,
and be
then,
well aware. And
but should it be only education, study abroad that people should migrate? Because I know that there's some communities, like some countries. For example, I know Canada has their skilled and unskilled work program, direct entry, express entry visas, which people can use, and then you can maybe work there and then get school. So do you also advise people, students, to also explore these options, that if they don't really go there because it's expensive to pay school fees, $1,000 is a lot of money right now.
It is.
Do you understand?
Minimum wage is at 30,000.
Minimum wage is still at 30,000.
Right.
You understand? So would you say to people that, look, education must not necessarily be the first way to migrate. You can migrate, it's cheaper, and then when you get there, you can now start school or, combine it. But if you're saying you want to have that bulk, 5 million, 10 million, I know people that are selling cars, houses, they want to go, and I'm like, are you people normal? But if and I might be the one who's not normal. So let's hear your thoughts on that.
In my own opinion, I would say, if I would advise someone, is one, you should have a skill. That is very, very important, because wherever you go to with a skill, one way or the other, you would find a way out. So also, if you're going, because I'm an educationist, I would say you should go for education first, because
Even
it's very
when you can
important.
afford it.
Yes, because no matter what you're going to do, the education is still going to be very, very relevant, especially in a country that is not in Africa. That's very highly required for you to be well educated. Mm-hmm. So I would advise one should start with, especially if you're going for degree program, mm-hmm. or maybe you don't have a bachelor's degree, for instance, mm-hmm. one should start from there.
Okay, you mentioned Africa. Mm-hmm. And then most times when we hear Japa, we're thinking the Western countries. But we have quite a number of good schools in Africa. Even though too in Africa we have some funny schools, because I've met some people, they come to the IT office and then I see them and I'm screaming. They've done a university project for 4 years in Nigeria and they're doing it in 2 years, in 1 year, 6 months. And I'm like, how can you cram all this? I mean, how can you compress that? Do we have good universities that you as an educationist will be encouraging people to explore within Africa? I know there are countries like Kenya that are doing very well. I know countries like Egypt, on their GDP, they're doing a lot better than Nigeria, which shouldn't be, So are there other African countries you would sell the idea to people to say, look, it doesn't have to be abroad. You can get a very good degree, you can get a very good education, mm-hmm. and you can still be within Africa.
Moving outside Africa is still abroad. So like you mentioned, moving outside Nigeria,
Cotonou is abroad, right?
Exactly.
Okay, but I mean, African abroad.
Yes, African abroad. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of universities, not just like you mentioned in Egypt and Kenya, and a lot of organizations as well, where you can explore and implement your potentials. Mm-hmm. And also there are universities as well in Ghana and Sudan, like I mentioned. Like the university medical school in Sudan, which is very good, and a lot of Nigerians are there currently. Unfortunately, because of what just happened.
Why is you saying that? Because when we were talking about Sudan, we was on the program, and then we were talking about the evacuation and the number of Nigerians, and I'm like, what are these people doing in Sudan, of all places? So I'm happy that an educationist is putting perspective into what we couldn't understand. Like, why do you have all these Nigerians in Sudan? What are they doing? Isn't Nigeria better than Sudan? So now you've just confirmed why.
Their universities are affordable, and especially based on my own experience, those that I have seen moving to Sudan are those who want to study medicine. For some reason, I don't know. Okay. Most probably would need to do a research on that.
Okay.
Yeah. But there are universities that one can easily move to in Africa if moving outside is not affordable for you. But again, there are countries outside Africa which are similar to the universities we have in Africa. So which means if you're able to leave your country, Nigeria, mm-hmm. it means you can go to those countries.
Exactly.
For better technology, for example. For
like
better, for like Cyprus, for instance. Like Cyprus. Yeah, it's quite affordable. The universities are quite. That's where I am currently.
We've had Cyprus 4 times on this show. There's a link. Okay.
So these are over there. Their universities are quite affordable, just like schooling in African universities.
Private universities.
Yes, private universities.
Okay.
But but since most of the government universities I had would be, since there's a student loan or something, based on my information.
No, we haven't heard that yet. We just heard that there will be, but I don't think it's been implemented. I think they're still working out.
If they do that, maybe they might increase the tuition as well.
Oh yes, they've been clamoring for that.
More like schooling in private university, although not similar, but it should be around that.
Okay. We really have run out of time, Hauwa. But the next time you come, you tell us how we can better our education system here in the country. I can't wait to have that conversation with you. But thank you so much.
So that we don't leave the country,
right? So that we don't even leave the country in the first place. Because I hate that people like you are traveling for education tourism.
What if we are going to come back to better the country?
Well, do you often do that?
Do most people
it happens. I've seen lots of people who...
Yeah. I know those ones. I know those ones who return, whose parents will now fix them in NMPC. But let's not... That's conversation.
They should fix them in National Radio and television, honestly.
It will be a pleasure to have such people pick ASO TV for jobs. But we know those people who often return. But thank you so much, Hauwa Bashir, for being part of the program.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thanks
much
for being on ASO Morning. And that's how we wrap up the program this Monday morning. Like Joy will say, be productive. It's Monday. Start your week with energy. I'm Ifanaya Yvonne Amafili.
And I am Joy Asanye. She took it out of me. Be productive. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll be back tomorrow with so much more. Have a blessed day.